everybody, welcome to, this is my favorite one because this is the March Maw of Mike on Monday. So this is alliteration all over the place. This is the second best one, before I prefer the May Maw of Mike because the weather's better. So thank you all for tuning in. It feels like it's been like about 2 months since we did one of these because the last month has been busy. All the stuff we've been going on in front of the scenes, behind the scenes, everything. It's just been go 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 between. Obviously, if you just spent the last hour listening to Chris Doyle talk about the Dungeon Denizens Kickstarter, you know that's been taking up a lot of our time. If you've been keeping track of the various Twitch shows that have been going on and the Kickstarter stuff, you knew that like the Goodman crowd was all in San Francisco the other week. It was one of the few times we get together face to face. We were talking world domination plans and all the rest of that stuff, and we got to broadcast live from the headquarters of Woodman Games, which is a hysterical anecdote we'll be sure to tell you about Gen Con one of these years. So it's been a busy month. I will tell you upright, we're probably going to have a little bit of an abbreviated show tonight, because we're in this kind of weird place right now. A lot of you may have remembered that when I started this, I said that my basic goal was to basically hit that big log jam of DCC projects that had accumulated due to the COVID and just everything else was going on. And well, that logjam finally broke up, and we just had a slew of releases for the last year, and now we're kind of settling into the stuff is flowing down the chute as scheduled. And there's a couple of big projects going on that we're not ready to announce yet, but we're doing a lot of work on. And Zine Quest was just last month. So basically everybody, all the third-party publishers who were really working on stuff, their stuff is all done. So they've got nothing to promote right now. So we're just kind of in this weird little lull period. But we do have contact. I had a last-minute cancellation too, so we're running a little short. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have two guests on tonight, and then at the end, I'm going to take your questions. So this is going to be Ask Mike Anything Reasonable. So if you have some questions you want to ask me specifically about kind of what's going on and stuff, keep them in your pocket for now. And then at the end of the show, I'll let you know. This is going to be anything reasonable. So don't ask me what or number 12 is going to be or anything like that, or what moment such and such Kickstarter will launch. But there's some stuff we've been announced and things are going on. I'd be more than happy to talk about that. Okay. So I think that's it. And so settle in for a show, however long it lasts tonight. And we'll be back with our first guest, who, if you've been watching the Twitch channel for the last hour, is going to look really familiar. Okay. All right. So we'll be right back in a couple. Hey everybody, welcome back to Chris Doyle, my partner on the other side of the fence, my doppelganger of all things 5e. Welcome to the show. Your first time. I have been on your show, but I think this is the first time you've been on my show.
I think you're right. I'm not sure I've been on your show before. So yeah, this is the first, and I feel like I haven't been on Twitch in about 6 minutes. So it's been awesome.
That's right. I feel that we should do a little bit of an intro because not everybody has spent the last hour watching Twitch, so they may not know what's going on. So basically, Chris is on the show because Chris is he was the one who got the big ball of monsters rolling for Dungeon Denizens. So when we can't have a show this month while the Kickstarter is live without talking about Dungeon Denizens on every single Twitch show we have. So Chris is on to help me talk a little bit more about that. So Chris, do you want to do the quick thumbnail for the 6 people in the yet undiscovered tribe in the Amazon basin who is not aware of what's going on about Dungeon Denizens?
Yeah, definitely. So Dungeon Denizens, we have literally been working on for about 3 years. It's almost exactly 3 years. This is birthed from the pandemic itself. And it's been great. So you were the ones that actually were the person with the axe that first broke ground on Dungeon Denizens. Then I came in after that. We laid, I would say, the massive amount of groundwork to the point that when you were working on Dungeon Denizens, it wasn't even a DCC project at that point.
No,
and you did significant 5e contributions to it. And if we would have known what we know today back 3 years ago, we would have done this completely differently.
We really would have done. Let's just say if there's a Dungeon Genesis 2, Chris and I have already figured out how we're not going to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. It's like it's kind of simpler to come up with all the ways how not to do something instead of how to do something. Is I think Edison made it very famous, very famous quote about that with the light bulb. And but yeah, so that was the start of it. And then we had our big 5e open call for the contributors. And we identified 13 contributors, freelance contributors to work with that. And their very first assignment was send me monsters. So each of them developed probably 6 to 10 monsters from that list. And then ever since then, that would have been mid 2021, we've just been adding and adding and adding more monsters and reaching out to some interesting folks to have them contribute to the book. And we're very, very pleased with where we've ended up and extremely excited about how the Kickstarter is going. Folks, we are, I believe, 24 backers away from our most backed Kickstarter in Goodman Games history. So we have 2 weeks to go. So we are so excited about that. So
it would be awesome if 24 of you have not backed it and are currently watching the show. Immediately go and back Dungeon Denison. So
yes.
um,
And if you do, then Mike will answer some really interesting questions later.
Sure, right. we'll make this up as we go along. I love the fact that you spent all that time to put the kind of the pie chart together because if you did not see the show, Chris had broken down basically all the writers who contributed monsters, and it's quite telling that the two biggest piece of that pie is Chris and I. That's
Yep. The wings of the butterfly.
It is. It is a butterfly. It's a butterfly pie chart. It is, and that is really because of, like as you say, it's like when this ball got started, it was March of 2020, and
Yeah.
I was actually kind of on sabbatical at that time. I working on a grant at doing archival work at a university, and then they shut down because of the pandemic. They like nobody knew what was going on, and I suddenly, I couldn't do anything because I literally had to be at the university in the library to do my work. I couldn't exactly telecommute. And then that's when you and Joe were just like, "Hey, you want to convert some monsters?" So
And you were like, yeah, sure. What do you need? And then it's like, well, how many could you do? And I remember you're like, whoa, pump the brakes. It's like, I'm good for about, it's not too many. And it was like,
well,
which
you
was
know what?
perfect.
It kept the lights on and it kept me fed during the pandemic. Considering I didn't really have any other income coming in during that time. So yeah. So I have a fond place in my heart for Dungeon Denison because it let me have heat in the winter of 2020.
And other basic, living necessities that we all need.
Exactly. so yeah. So as you said, it's like originally it started. There was, you basically you did like a comprehensive look at the kind of what we had already done in the past with Goodman Games, and
Yep.
then that was kind of that laid the foundation to add yet more and more monsters on top of that, and that was a
Yep.
lot of fun because it was really a history lesson in a lot of ways of going back to you know
It was. Yeah.
what do you recall offhand like what the earliest adventure that we like a monster from like one of those that
Oh,
showed in there? I don't think we had anything
trying to
from
think.
DCC
I'm trying to
one.
think what the earliest one would be. Probably it might be Malatok, the crow demon from that was number 5. I
Yeah,
think was there anything? I know number 1 didn't have anything. No, number 2 had the bushes, the named after the no, maybe.
no,
I'm
no,
not sure. But anyway, they go back. We did go all the way back to DCC 0 back in the 3rd edition days to start looking. And we didn't take everything, folks. We just went and picked the really cool stuff. As a matter of fact, Mike and I just the other week were talking, it's like, hey, how did this monster not make it in the book? And we were like, talking about one and from one of the 3rd edition adventures, and we're like, we're not sure how that kind of slipped through and everything, and we're like, it's like we probably should have put that one in. That one would have been really cool. And then we're like, all right, put that on the list for
yeah,
number 2.
yeah.
So yeah, so I would think Malatok is probably right around one of the very first ones.
I think you're right because it's either area of the cocaine is either 4 or 5. So yeah, so
Yes.
and Malatok is one of those great one of like kind of the ones that has continued into DCC RPG as well. So
Mhm.
I mean it's one of those ones that its roots are very deep, but it's it's still she's still around. So it
Yep.
was great to be able to have her both in 5e, and now we actually have some stats for, for her and all her little minions and everything. So if you want to use her in a DCC adventure, or a DCC campaign, you're going to be able to do that. So and who can say no to Crow Gods, all right? Our goddesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the beauty of it, is to be able to go back and to pull from such a rich history for some of those earlier monsters was great. And again, the lore and everything, and being able to, we have pull quotes in there from, like, quote unquote famous NPCs. So we pulled out NPCs from the old classic adventures and stuff like that. So you're gonna, and like you said, a lot of those were just brought right into the DCC RPG. So a lot of folks are going to be, they're going to recognize a lot of these things, and they're going to be like, oh wow, it's like, I know that. I'm like, wow, we have stats for that now. I mean, that's amazing. And it's like, and again, that, no other company can do that. We're very fond of saying we've been around for 20 plus years now. Yeah, nobody can take that history away from us. And that was like kind of the groundwork that we built up everything off of that. And then just went crazy. And as I was mentioning in my show about having all the different contributors, 27 different designers working on this, you get just such amazing concepts and monster builds when you have lots of different people working on it. And that was, challenging logistically to do, but also very rewarding to do at the end of the day.
Right. I think one of the more interesting things about doing it, since although we have monsters, it's not all old monsters, we that's with some of the original use, but we have a lot of new monsters, but when looking back at some of those monsters from the 3.0, 3.5 era, there was a very specific way of doing monsters back then.
Yeah.
And it was very, the D20 system, which, as you know, because you were writing for it back then, how that, I always call it the D20, like the D20 system is the Swiss watch of game design, because like it has all the little pieces work together, for the wonderfully.
Yeah.
But the way we do games now have changed since the 3.5 era.
Yeah.
So, but either, if it's even with 5e and with DCC RPG, it was just like this is really convoluted. Let's just kind of strip all this down and make it more, more accessible and everything. And taking that same design philosophy when we were creating new monsters, on top of that too. So no, it was so nice not to have any, like, oh, what's the spot skill, like how many points does it have in spot,
Yeah, it was definitely when we first started, when I first started doing writing for 5e, it was hard to actually break that mold of, like you said, everything was very formulaic in third edition. And everything was explained, and everything had, you knew what every monster weighed and all this kind of stuff, and you knew how many gnomes could fit inside of a purple worm. I think the answer is 16 or something like that. But all that stuff was, and then you get the kind of, 5e, and then definitely an extension further that DCC is where it's a little bit more loosey goosey, and like you can kind of design what you need the monster to do, and it doesn't have to be beholden to a formula, and like it has to do this or it has to do that, which is very freeing and is amazing from a creativity standpoint. But when it's been hammered in your head for like 9 years that you have to create monsters this way, it's hard to get out of that habit sometimes. So but it's very refreshing too also. So
I mean, and that comes in handy when they kind of decide to trying to tinker with rule systems after you've already done, like, 500 plus monsters or whatever, and then suddenly Wizards decide they're going to make some changes to how 5e is going to be implemented, and then Chris got to go back and change everything. And
yes.
luckily
Yeah, so
everything I did was already in DCC. He was like, we're good, that's it.
Yep. So that happened a year ago. Yeah, it would have been a year ago this time when Wizards of the Coast brought out their Monsters of the Multiverse, and they didn't make wholesale changes on the stat boxes, but they made enough changes on the stat boxes that we wanted this book to be, kind of evergreen, and we kind of wanted to be up to stats. We wanted people to be familiar with it when they purchased it from the 5e side. So I went through all 500 plus monsters and tweaked them to that new format, and it took me months because I was doing, a bit at a time, but it was a great process to do because I hadn't touched the monsters in probably almost a year or maybe 6 months. So it was great to get back into them and see them again with kind of a fresh perspective, and then to make a couple of extra tweaks with it. And to be honest with you, a lot of the changes that Wizards did do, they actually did make a lot of sense from the standpoint of actually using the creature at the game table, which we're all about. We are all about, putting all the stats in our books and everything to make sure that the game master has everything he needs at the game table. And we love that. So it did kind of make sense, and it was a great process to go through, but it was yet another step that had to be done, and then yet another editing pass that had to be done after that. And yeah, and meanwhile you were just like, I'm good.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was good then. There's still going to be another editing pass, like a final read through of everything. Because as anybody who's worked on a project with many different contributors, it's really easy to, I mean, it's really easy to kind of get a little lost in the weeds a little bit, or I mean, so it's always good to. I think that's why both projects has, we have a lot of people who are doing like the editing the monsters that we had, like a team of designers doing. Then we had a number of different editors, and then we have like an uber editor who was kind of just making sure everything was good, and then we still have to put eyes on it one last time, because ultimately it's our responsibility. So
Yes, that is exactly the way we did it too. We had a lead editor, and then he was doing some of the editing, but then the other team members on the editing team, they were doing their thing, but then the lead editor reviewed all their things, and then he had one of those editors review all of his stuff, and then then it came back to me, and then it went back to him again. So yeah, it's definitely passing it back and forth, and having the spreadsheet to kind of track all of that, and to literally knock off the monsters as you're going along. Second pass done, first pass done, converted to DCC done. It was great to actually have that all in one location, that we could all kind of look at that spreadsheet and kind of just work off of that. So
yeah, I do not envy Matt, our poor art director Matt, when he does layout, because he gets to do this book twice in two different
yes,
ways, because you know
but the best part of the project is when I get to open up an email and there's like 10 more pieces of full color art that I get to review and check with the original descriptions and everything. And that is by far, it's like, and the last, I would say, 2 or 3 months, it's almost on a daily basis. Yeah, it's probably not a daily basis. It just feels like it. It's every a couple of days I get that awesome email, and it's like, hey, check out these. And sometimes it's one or two, sometimes it's 10.
mm,
But it's so cool seeing the art, and it's a blast, because that's when it starts to really get real. I mean, before seeing the art, it was all literally just stats on a page, which is, after a while, is not that interesting.
yeah. So, all right. So I know you've been talking about this a lot, so I'm going to let you go soon. But I'm going to ask you the question, which I'm sure you've been public. All right. So not so. What's your favorite monster? As in one of the monsters that you came up with. I mean, I know this is an awesome amount of it, but this is your chance to
Ooh,
your own horn.
the one that I really like a lot. All right, I'm gonna go this route. It's called the Inferal. It's a demonic squirrel. And it's a planar squirrel. As everybody, well, I don't know if everybody knows this, but squirrels have cheek pouches where they store food and stuff to make their nest. So these cheek pouches are extra dimensional. And the squirrel's got these dark beady eyes, and when it looks at you, it could stun you or incapacitate you, and then it can swipe your stuff, and it likes small little magic items. Oh, by the way, being planar, it can detect magic, so it knows which rings are magic and which aren't. And then it can grab things from you and shove them in those cheek pouches, and then when you come out of your stupor, you might have a few less magic items and stuff like that. And they're obviously more deadly in large packs. So
Right.
so just one of them, not much of a challenge, but when you run into, say 15 or 16 of them, that'll really good. And it's interesting, there was two lead inspirations for this demonic squirrel. The first one was when I visited Niagara Falls and I saw Canada's black squirrels, and they
Uh,
looked like they could like beat me up. And that, till this day, I'll be haunted by those black squirrels with the red eyes. And then the second thing is the squirrels from Castle Amber, the ones that
oh,
can, the Midas touch
the Midas
squirrels.
squirrels, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Midas squirrels. That was another thing, and I was like, oh, and I'm like, how about a squirrel? And I remember it was like coming up with a couple of last designs for the book, and I'm like, we're going demonic squirrel. That's where we're going with this one. So, and I love it. It was fun to design, and it's going to be so much fun to use at the game table.
Right,
So
right. So I said, I and I mean, it's something like that, which is perfectly at home in a DCC campaign too. So I mean, there's a lot of back. I saw somebody. I was waiting in the chat room, and somebody had asked whether the the 5e fans are going to find these too weird, or the DCC fans will find the monsters too vanilla. And I think that kind of sums up the question right there. I think there's something for everyone in this book. So
Yes,
but yeah.
demonic squirrels, they cross all editions and all games.
They do. That's it. They bring people together. That's it. And then they steal all your stuff.
Yep.
That's it. They put in their health pouches. So
The chat is going crazy on squirrels, man. I love it. +4 cheeks of holding. Hopped up on maple syrup. That could explain it.
yeah.
So definitely.
There's a colony of black squirrels that lives not too far away from me. I don't
Wow,
know
that's
how
so
they got
cool.
on Long Island, but I one day I was literally driving down the road. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I looked
Yep.
over and said, that's a black squirrel.
Yep.
And then I
Yeah,
see them, but I think it's just one colony that lives just off of this one road. So I don't
I
know.
just have the boring gray ones near me. So I don't even have red ones, but yeah. So
Well, we finally got coyotes on Long Island. Maybe we'll export some black squirrels over to Jersey. Maybe
there you go.
they'll
So
ride some coyotes over. Is what they'll do. Yeah,
yeah.
then
W- Well, it took them so long to get there because they were in the traffic to get across the bridges. So I mean,
you know,
that's why. So
the coyotes finally got easy pass, and then everything
yep.
changed.
Then everything changed.
So, all right, Chris. Well, I know you've been talking a lot about Dungeon Genesis, and I'm sure you want to go to bed. So
It'd
thank
be
you for
nice to not
joining.
talk for a little while. So,
Yeah.
but
So
thank you for
I'm
having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
no problem, man. Thanks for coming by. So, all right. So we'll be back just a moment with my second guest. So stick around, everybody. Hey everybody, we are back. And speaking of deep roots in DCC, tonight's my guest is Mr. Edgar Johnson, he's it's been a while, Edgar, but you've got some history with DCC. So thank you for coming on the show and talking about what you're doing now. So yeah, um we've had a lot of people kind of discover DCC. So why don't you give a little bit about your credentials and your history with DCC RPG? Because you've done some stuff for us in the past. So
I've done I guess my first thing was Blood for the Serpent King, which I had in Bride of the Black Manse with Harley Stroh as kind of an add-along adventure, right?
mhm.
My first full-length adventure, and it was almost double length, was against the Atomic Overlord.
I,
And
I was just saw somebody on the Discord. Somebody's planning on running that to. They're going to introduce their DCC characters, then they'll run them through Atomic Overlord to get them into an MCC campaign. And then
fantastic.
the plan is that they're going to mutate from their fifth level MCC characters back to 0 level MCC characters, and then go back to DCC. So it's kind of like it's really Hakuna Matata. It's a circle of life.
I
So
love it. I love it. And I guess the other stuff was Purple Planet. I did a lot of stuff with Terry and Daniel and
Terry,
other
well,
other people.
yeah, no,
And did some stuff for the annual and a little bit here, a little bit there.
yep. And then you took a little break to do to do scholastic stuff.
I did. I was working on an academic book about the Google Plus community, and then that blew up, and sort of the project blew up as well.
Yeah,
So it was kind of nice to get a call from you, or I guess it was an email from you, and you're like, "Hey, can I drag you back into this?" And I'm like, "Why, yes, you can."
so that's great, man. It's just I was upset to hear that because of everything that went on with Google Plus and everything, because I know you had put a lot of work in that. You did a lot of surveys. I know I had filled one out at one point. I think Harley had done one. We were all talking about everything, and we were looking forward to that. But all right. Well, who knows? Maybe 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or something like that. Maybe when some people are dead. So maybe
Right.
so we can dig some of that stuff out. But anyway, but that's it. Poor yeah, Hector, pour one out for Google, for G Plus. Yeah, there's not a day that goes by where I don't see somebody who talks about the Google Plus and the community that was so active on there. A lot of people who weren't gamers or weren't into tech are like, Google Plus was like the big, like that was the biggest flop whatsoever. And you're like, you were there, baby. It was if it did what it was, maybe it's very cyberpunk. The street finds a way. That's it. It's like maybe it didn't do what they wanted it to do, but we certainly found a way to put it to use, and a lot of good stuff came out of it. But In fact, I'm safe to say we wouldn't have the DCC RPG community we have today if it wasn't for Google Plus. I think that was the catalyst that brought a lot of people together. So, you know, so.
Absolutely, it was. That's how I made friends with Harley, and that's how I said, "Hey, do you think Joe would let me pitch something to him?" And I did, and he said no. And then 2 weeks later, he's like, "Hey, you want to write a little thing with Harley?" Right? So he says that door is completely closed. Sorry, guys, but it was the Wild West back then.
You know, everybody, I have heard it, and it is correct. Is that there's a hole into the role playing game industry, and it is exactly your size. And it's like, you know, because nobody else is going to fit through it, and once you get through it, then they board it up behind you, and nobody else can get in that way either. So, you know, I mean, it's really, I got into it because I had this stupid blog post for 2 weeks that, you know, I didn't think anybody was going to look like, and Joe discovered it. So, you know, so that, yeah, you never can tell. And here I am now, director of product development for DCC. Did not see that one coming. But let's stop talking about it. Let's talk about the now. Let's talk about DCC 103,
Oh,
Bloom
yeah.
of the Blood Garden, which you wrote. So we want to give people the just kind of like the, you know, the 10,000-foot view of Bloom of the Blood Garden without just, you know, ruin too many surprises.
Yeah, not too many spoilers. Okay. So the 10,000-foot view is it's a 0-level adventure that involves kind of a outdoor dungeon crawl through a formal garden around a manor. And when the people get to the heart of the manor, they find something quite disturbing. And they may also find lots of opportunities.
Yeah, yes, very much so. This is a great one because it can, I without giving anything away, is it literally, like, the judge who's running this does not know what type of campaign they'll be running by the time the adventure is over. You know, it's like, it can go one of many different ways. You're like, I'm going to do this, and then the players make some choice. You're like, well, I guess we're not going to do this. I guess we're going to run this style of campaign instead. So
Yeah, we'll just say it's very player centric.
it very much so. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, the players' choices. Yeah, players have a lot of agency in this one. You know, to decide, you know, the future of not only their characters but the campaign, which is really good. So yeah, so I think this one is going to be a fun one. So you know, because we kind of went back and forth on this, so we had, you know, pitched some ideas and everything, and you had mentioned some of the original kind of inspirations for this when you're thinking, and I think if people have those in their mind, they'll be able to, you know, kind of pick up and then going through. So what were some of the things in the back of your head when you were writing 103?
Okay. Well, I think one of the big things that I'll kind of start with is I'd been thinking about doing this a while back when I was just looking into Abraham Merritt and Creep Shadow and that manor house and the ruins and that, you know, ancient cult that they're sort of having, like, ancestral memory about. I sort of had that in the back of my mind for a long time, but I'd also started doing a lot of gardening that summer, right? And it just seemed to me like it was pretty ripe for that kind of thing. But if we want to kind of stick to Appendix N, I would say a couple stories that kind of line up with this would be Lovecraft's The Color Out of Space and Dreams in the Witch House, because of that sort of sense of being just right next to some other dimension where things just work differently. And I definitely would bring in Glenn Cook's Black Company because I like the way Glenn conceives the minds of wizards and their sort of long-term machinations and how they imagine how their lives are going to unfold, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the last one is, I mean, going back to Google Plus. I've been on the internet since I was on a 2.4K baud dial-up modem.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I've gotten to see how it grew, and it's like a font of endless possibilities, some just amazing and some absolutely horrible, and you never know what you're going to get.
Right.
And so there's something in this that is absolutely inspired by let's just say the contemporary internet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a sense of a mimetic reality that, you know, that kind of drifts its way through, and you know, it's it's not quite cosmic horror, and neither not quite reality horror, but maybe, you know, kind of a frothy mix of the two. So, you know, so yeah. So yeah, so in that sense, it is very Appendix N, because it's it very much it's one of so one of the one of my favorite Fritz Leiber stories is Lean Times in Lankmar.
Mhm.
Because the whole like it's this commentary on like fame, which Leiber basically knew, but having been kind of like the acting world adjacent and everything. The whole idea of that religions kind of come and go and they rise in popularity and then they drift back out. Nobody ever hears them again. Everything. So I love it when the appendix and like the classic sword and sorcery are using that. It's the same thing with science fiction, but it does. I think it's hidden more in sword and sorcery stuff when they're addressing kind of like modern concerns and modern ideas and everything, but behind this veneer of magic and whatever the rest of that is. So and I think Bloodgarden does that very well. It kind of, as you're talking, it talks about is is too much information a bad thing? What is the effect on information? What is misinformation? I think some of that leads into the fact of what kind of decision the players may end up making at the end of the adventure. So it really is interesting. Really, do some interesting things with it, and I think you did a tremendous job with it. I think this is definitely an Edgar Johnson adventure. I don't think Harley would write this. I don't think I would write this. Brendan wouldn't write this. So no, so you did you very well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, I apologize to all you judges out there who may run this thing in advance. Just lean into it. It'll be fine.
So, why the decision to commission another funnel? Because basically, we've had a lot of people who are coming into the hobby for the first time and everything, and there are the classics, but there's also a lot of people who've already played all the classics. So we kind of wanted to make things a little funnel heavy at first to give people that opportunity where like if you run Sailors or if you run Portal and Portal and the Stars. I mean, if you're trying to get into the game with your kid or anything like that, you need something that the two of you can experience together. So that's why we've had a lot of stuff on this, and you'll see in the coming years we're going to be having less funnels. Like we've kind of done now funnel heavy, and now we're going to be working on like okay, now more first and second level adventures. There's all thought here. So, but so what would you say one of your favorite things? What are your favorite things? One of the things that you're most proud of that you managed to pull off with DCC 103. If you can talk about it without spoiling anything.
I would say probably my favorite things about it are the big stuff moving around in the background.
Mhm.
I think probably some of the better writing I did in the adventure is about the two prime movers behind the scenes and what happened in the past and how that past kind of is influencing the present is going to shape the future with the help of the players.
Mhm.
And I really hope that players will engage with some of that stuff and have the opportunity to kind of look into it. Maybe that's going to become a part of their game world if they decide to go with a campaign out of the zero level funnel.
Right.
I really enjoy that. That's one of my favorite things about these games anyway, is kind of imagining the world in which these sorts of things are happening.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think the important thing, and which you did so well in this, is that you present a lot of building block. Even if you present, I always say that like a good role playing supplement or adventure is like a toy box. It's like you kind of there's all these elements, and you give the toy then to the judge, and then you step back. And it's up to them to say, oh, I can take this block, I'm going to take this and put this together and everything like that. And there's enough of that in DCC 103 that they can take those elements and kind of elaborate on them, or maybe it's something we revisit down the line, or in another annual or a yearbook or something like that. But there's something. Um, I don't know. I don't think you can see the chat, Edgar. But there's a
I
question
can't.
from Bob the Magic One. Edgar, is there a level 1 adventure you would suggest after this?
Level one adventure I'd suggest after this. I don't rightly know. Honestly,
I think it's because it branches at the end, so it really depends on like where the players end up going with this.
it really does. It really does change things. And I mean, I don't have the levels memorized for all the adventures. I've got all the adventures, but I can't remember right off the top of my head which ones are level 1, which are level 2, and that sort of thing.
Right.
I think something maybe at level 2. I believe Bride of the Black Mance is at level 2, isn't it?
Blood Black Mance, I think it's 4 off.
Is it 4?
Yeah,
I might be
off the
wrong.
top of my head, but I might be wrong. Yeah. I tell you what, I personally wouldn't run Intrigue of the Court of Chaos after this because because the players are already going to be making choices on this. You don't want to have them discern where the campaign is go and then run an adventure where they might change things even more. So I think
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'd sort of take is that the borders around the adventures are kind of undefined. You get a sense of the place where these people are at, but not a whole lot beyond that. So I could imagine a place like, here it's down the road, not too far away. So you could go into Doom of the Savage Kings. You could go
right.
into a lot of other different places. Because it's relatively open. I could even see Michael kind of going over into some little holler somewhere and encountering something from the stuff you've written, right?
Right. And that's true, is because it doesn't come out quite as much, but it's definitely in the background of the Shutter Mountains. Is there and there's an element to Bloodgarden where there's a bit of folk horror in there, and I think there's some of that in the Shutter Mountain stuff. So you could easily tie in one of the entities in Bloodgarden to having some sort of presence in the Shutter Mountains. I think I think if you really wanted to go into some weird kind of Children of the Corn or Pumpkinhead stuff, I think you could do something fun with that.
Oh yeah, there's corn whiskey involved after all.
Yeah, right. It's a great taste that brings everything together.
Right.
Dweller Between Worlds could work. In fact, actually, yeah, in fact, you could probably reskin some stuff and make it tie in rather nicely. So yeah. And Elena, thank you. Bride of the Black Mance is level 3. I knew it was.
Okay.
I knew it wasn't 2. I bet it wasn't good 2. Yeah. So all right. Well, so any last final words about either, DCC 103 or anything else that you currently are doing or want to plug, or just
Yeah, I had just some thanks. I really want to thank you for having me on. I like to thank you for reaching out and getting me to write this thing. And I appreciate that you kept on the road with me for a little while till we got here. But especially Brendan LaSalle and the road crew did a really smash up job with the playtesting for this. He reached out to folks and we got something like 25 different groups to play it.
I think there's finally 27 different groups went through this. I mean, it was it was kind of, we had thought about doing the road crew as a way to kind of test stuff that just give it that chance, because we always play test stuff, but having more people kind of bang on this. And I know you were like, I haven't really run or done anything in a while, so the more people we have hammering on this, the better and everything. So yeah, so there's like a whole stat block of like special thanks to.
There really is. We almost had to like double the size of it for the play testers. And I have to say, I'm sorry I wasn't able to use all of the feedback that I was given, because I got so much good feedback. But I do promise that there's a lot of contributions from those play testers in there.
The important thing is you read all the feedback, even if not everything got implemented and everything. So this is a side plug. If you're not currently part of the road crew, we do use the road crew as a way to kind of do play tests and stuff. In fact, actually, the road crew right now is play testing a new MCC adventure. So thank you, Stream Elements, for dropping that link in there. So if you want to get on the inside track, start up a group, start running games in public, or find one of these, what I call our disorganized play society, and find a way to start playing with them. So, all right. Well, Edgar, thank you very much for coming on the show. I'm sure people are going to really enjoy their time in the Bloodgarden.
I hope they do. Enjoy it. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
You're welcome. All right, we'll be back in just a brief moment, and so if you have any questions, get them ready, because I'm going to start answering stuff. But all right. So, all right, we'll be back in a second. Hey everybody, welcome back. All right, so it's we've actually made it for 45 minutes, so it was better than I anticipated. But so let me give you a couple updates before people ask some questions. So first of all, if you were a backer of the Dying Earth, you are most likely got a lot of surprises in PDF form in your mailbox, in your Backer Kit mailbox. So this is I've already heard people, have had a chance to look, basically just glimpse the PDFs of Dying Earth, and people are very impressed so far. And we at Goodman Games, the mill grinds slow but exceedingly fine. So I'm very happy the way people have been doing with Dying Earth. For those of you who did not back it, I would expect pre-orders probably to go live before the end of the month. So, no, it was still some things being worked out, but if you missed it, hey, you'll soon have a chance to make up for that. So that is definitely what's going on. That's the big thing which is going. Yes, the PDFs are wonderful and the art booklet is beautiful. Wait till you see these things. Wait, everybody, once they have this in their hands, is going to be the most awesome stuff. As you all know, Dungeon Denizens, a lot of D's going on. Dungeon Denizens will wrap up just before GaryCon. In fact, I think it wraps up the day before we all jump into planes and cars and head away to GaryCon. So please, by all means, if you're still on the fence, check it out. We're gonna have plenty more time to kind of get involved in that. I know we're going to be opening, or we're going to be accepting backer monsters. Most likely, I've had a lot of people already ask me about, like when we're going to do that. Most likely about 3 weeks after we all get back from GaryCon, we will post all the rules and everything for that. So yeah, so that is basically, like I said, Zine Quest was this year, that was this past month. So we've had a lot of third-party stuff going on, and so people will be getting goodies in the weeks ahead. So let's see, and some questions going on here. Let me see. Let's see. Where we go? Radiation Crawl Classics update. Radiation Crawl Classics is still in the works. As I said, there's been a lot of stuff going on. For those of you who have you followed Goodman Games for a while, that we put out good stuff. But we don't do it cash grab. We want to make sure that we're going to do these things right. So let me just say, I have been watching a lot of Italian post-apocalyptic movies. I think I've broken my Amazon Prime algorithm, because it just keeps suggesting I watch more and more crap. But it has been very instrumental to kind of deciding what we're going to do with this. I think Fred Williamson might have to be a patron in DCC at some point, because he is like he's the great Italian, post-apocalyptic hero and everything. So things are working on that. It's going to be a while. We're going to make sure we do this right and everything. So we'll keep you up as things go, but you're not going to see anything this year. Next year is we'll see. All right. So that's that. Let's see. Is the mall frame a Kovacs from Just Ironman? No, I do not. It is not. In fact, I asked Matt Hildebrandt, our beloved art director, basically like 2 days before I did the first mall of Mike. I said, I need a frame, and he produced that. So I don't think Doug did that. But I do not know who did the art for them. So all right. Okay, Elena, what is my favorite monster you created for the Denizens? I actually have a whole castle of monsters that I like. I have the Gloomborn, which are all sorts of twisted fairies who live underground. They were basically your underdeep monsters, including the Gloomicorn, and we have one. I think we posted of it. It's basically like a weird ogre that has eyes on the bottom of its feet, and we have like mushroom herders, and we needed Fae, and I said, we don't have a lot of Underdark Fae. We don't have a little subterranean Fae, so I got to make a whole slew of family of them. So yeah, so that's kind of where things are going on with that for the most part. I definitely want to let you all know, this is something that is going to be a work in progress, and we're shooting for this to be out, well, we're going to have a campaign next year, but you have heard possibly us talking about a DCC RPG box set, a introductory kind of basic, old school basic D&D set. That is currently under the works, and I'm very happy with kind of how that is coming together. Obviously, we've had a lot of people discovering DCC over the last, for the last year from the pandemic, and then also for, in the last couple of months, for some reason, just people just started want to learn about other role-playing games. So we're going to put together basically a kind of, we're using a lot of the old school basic kind of expert set as kind of a blueprint, not exact, reproduction of that, the kind of thing that we want to do. So, starter set, yeah, kind of a red blood box, yeah, that pretty much that's it. Yeah. So, still detailed, but it's, we kind of want to have we want to have it so it's something that, you can give to your kid, or you can, like, so, your significant other who doesn't really know too much about role-playing games is very interested in learning to play, kind of like the Mentor set did, kind of, you didn't know anything about it, but by the time you were done, you were after that Bargle guy, so yeah. Is there going to be foil? Yes, there will always be foil. How much foil is up to you. However that. And we have plans to. The plan is that we'll have a bunch of pre-gen zeros in that, probably scratch offs, so you can get things going right out of the box, literally right out of the box. So no even rolling dice. Here's your character sheet. Here's it. This is everything. Here's 16 pages. The judge needs to know about running a funnel, and go. So yeah, so that's it. So that is in the works, and we haven't forgotten all of you who've been around for the last 10 years either. So we've got some more stuff. We don't know, we're not quite sure what level it's going to be right now. There's still a lot of stuff is still in the planning stages. This is kind of what my life has been. But no, we're going to crowdsource those same crappy dice, Tim. We're trust me. If I can package this with a wax crayon that you have to fill them in, I will. But I don't think I want to do that to Tom Andrews. So so Purple Planet, yes, Purple Planet. I do not lie to you, people. Purple Planet is in the works, and we will be having there will be a announcement coming in the near future, and it's going to be big. It's going to be big in a lot of different ways. So stay tuned. We'll have more of that coming soonish. We've got a couple other projects which are currently in the works, but maybe no exact promises, but hope, if all goes well, you'll hear something before Gen Con, but we'll see what exactly that is. No dates whatsoever. Okay. So yeah, so those are the big stuff that's in the work. I've been very excited about the DCC box set. I think it's going to be, it's going to be my love letter. When we get a level 7 adventure, that's a good question. I guess we'll get a level 7 adventure the time somebody pitches me a level 7 adventure. So I can assign stuff, but I'm also very open to people I do. So yeah, you're holding your adventure paths. But we purposely put that just to antagonize you, Tim. That's it. Will Joe write anything soon for DCC? Trust me, I have asked Joe. His kids are just not old enough just yet, but they're getting there. They're getting it. I think as soon as they get another year or two on them, he's going to finally have some free time on his hands. So that's it. So more Empire of the East stuff. I never say never. So it's just again, it's what comes down to stuff. Of brains and everything. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff is in the works right now, but nothing that I can announce. When will I've been a big proponent of getting Rodney Matthews to do some art for us for the longest time. Anybody who follows me on social media knows that I'm a huge Rodney Matthews fan. I used his picture of Corum as kind of like the banner art for the War Crawl campaign back in 2020. I would personally love Rodney Matthews to do a cover for us, but it's a matter of timing, it's a matter of money. It's Rodney's pretty busy himself, so that's it. That's it. No. It is my dream too. I would love to write something that is worthy of doing Rodney Matthews. But that would probably require getting like a Moorcock license, which is not in the works, by the way. so despite how much we love Michael, don't expect anything anytime soon. Okay, there's also a very nice French company who has an agreement with him, so we can't do anything about that. All right. So all right. So I think unless anybody's got any more questions, I think we're going to wrap it up maybe about 5 minutes early. So DCC coloring book, don't know. So, all right. Well, that's it. Considering we're a little shorthanded, we almost made it through an hour. So those of you who are going to be at GaryCon in just 2 weeks, oh my God, I haven't even written anything yet. I will be there. Chris Doyle will be there. Brendan will be there. Harley will not be there. But Doug will be there. Matt Hildebrandt will be there. Judge Jen will be there. Bob will be there. I think Stephen Newton will be there. So they're a big chunk of the DCC and Goodman Games crowd. So if you're planning on being in Lake Geneva, please stop by the booth, grab us in the hallway, say hi, buy us a sandwich because we'll be hungry. No, that's it. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much for spending this Monday of March, the first Monday of March, with me on the Mauve Mic. And I will be back in 1 month with more goodies for you and hopefully even better news. So take it easy, everybody. Have a good night.